As we move into the 21st century, there are many challenges facing people who live all around the globe. To handle these challenges facing society, new scientific fields are emerging. Let's learn about one of them from UVA's Dr. Kevin James.
Is that among the engineering disciplines, it is by far the newest. I would think that the field was only first defined in the 1960s, so 50 some odd years ago. And because of that, it is always undergoing new definitions about what that means. Sometimes this can be work engineering with cells, engineering with organs, engineering the human body. There can be the nanotechnology, which is something newer that comes in. And so this is one of the things that I think is very different from, say, a chemical engineering or a civil engineering, where civil engineers tend to build bridges and buildings, that chemical engineers work with oil companies or certain refineries or plants, and et cetera. Biomedical engineers do a whole assortment of things, and it's a much bigger group of, say, scientists and professionals that would fall under that umbrella compared to some of the more classical engineering disciplines.
The many different areas in engineering and medicine have come together to create an exciting new field we call biomedical engineering, or BME.
So Jason Pappen, Associate Professor of Biomedical Engineering at University of Virginia. So BME, I think biomedical engineering, what really makes it unique is it really is just that fusion of the computation, the mathematics, the physics, that really quantitative math skills, and then apply it to problems in biology, in medicine. It's trying to use those technical tools and address challenges that are in biology and medicine.
Let's join Dr. Shane Pierce-Kotler as she shares all the different areas of expertise that doctors and engineers bring to the table for biomedical engineering.
Some unique things about BME are that it's truly interdisciplinary. We sit at the intersection of medicine and engineering, obviously. And so we work a lot with doctors, clinicians, patients, nurses, families of patients, but we also work with engineers. And so being at the crux of these two disciplines allows us to, see a lot of variety and also encounter the problems through our clinical collaborators, but then bring to bear tools that are developed by collaborations in engineering. So it's a very interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary place to live and work, and that makes it really fun and exciting.
Dr. Sylvia Blemker explains how biomedical engineers must persevere and view problems as possibilities.
I find biomedical engineering unique and different from all the other fields that I've been looked at, because it really merges together lots of the fields, many fields, and it's always providing new, interesting challenges that nobody really knows how to solve. So it brings together biology, medicine, math, engineering, physics, and actually many other things that we bring all those fields together to solve important problems. So I think it's exciting because we're very problem oriented. We want to make a difference, but we also have become really good at drawing from lots of different fields, which means that we often have to teach ourselves new things that we don't know about.
Dr. Jeff Saucerman reveals a challenge that he and many other biomedical engineers face.
I think one of the most both scary and exciting parts of when I entered graduate school is that up until that point, through school, you're always given problems that you know there's a definite solution that you can get to in about 15 minutes. And once you step into research, you suddenly find that there might not be an answer to your problem, or it could take half an hour, a couple hours, 20 years to solve. And so it's both kind of scary and exciting. And so what you try to do though is the scientific method allows you to make progress and understand more and more and more, even though you can't explain everything at the same time. You just need to kind of design good, clean experiments so that you can learn despite uncertainty.
Dr. James explains the mental effort and work involved in getting from what you know to what you want in the biomedical engineering research.
And everybody needs to work hard. So the field does not come naturally to anybody. We all work very hard. I started struggling with math when I was in 5th grade. But then I think that in looking back, that was a good thing because it taught me that I actually had to study. I actually had to review things. I had to work at this. And I actually think it made me do better in college because I struggled so much starting from elementary school with some of these fields. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working hard in these different areas, but it was difficult. But I was persistent, and I stayed with it. And then because of that, you get better. You get more expertise, more knowledge, and then you build upon that. But the working hard and the struggle sort of never finishes, and that's just kind of part of the field and something you eventually get to like. Longer term, that ties in with kind of learning new things. It's always a struggle, and when you succeed in the face of that, I think it's very fulfilling.
Sometimes images taken by the biomedical engineers end up being works of art. Dr. Song Kyun gives us an example of this.
Well, I never imagined that my technology could be linked to art. So there are two cases I think might be relevant. The first case is that in 2006, actually I think this art museum actually sent an email to my previous advisor. Actually request our very first generation of photoacoustic microscope. They want to put it in their museum. So I think that's a very cool thing.
Images that scientists have made during their research have been found to be quite attractive. So beautiful that Princeton University actually has a reception and sets up displays of works submitted and gives prizes for the best. Dr. Papin explains how collaboration is the foundation for his research.
I have meetings with other faculty. We try to, every once in a while, we talk about ideas for bigger projects that go between multiple labs, and how do we work on bigger problems that are hard for a single person to do.
Collaboration has played a big role in Dr. Hughes' career.
So I had collaboration all the time, and within the university and throughout the world. So within the university, I closely collaborated with, physicians in clinics. So I had two primary projects. One is the tumor biology. So in that project, I collaborated with a cancer physician who is working on renal cancer. So which is a very aggressive, highly angiogenic cancer. So we had a collaboration for continuously 4 years, and we end up with a big NIH grant, the National Institute of Health. So I think that's a very good example. And another collaborating project I had at WashU is with a neuron biologist who is doing stroke and Alzheimer's disease. Both are very, important disease, particularly to the elder population. So for that one, we're still working on that. So I recently submitted a proposal to AHA, the American Heart Association. The topic is on stroke. Actually, I just wrapped up some of my grant. So these are two collaborations, very good collaborations I had. So now I think I only been here for like 2 months, but I already talked to different people on campus. Within our department, I talked to Dr. Shane Pierce and also Dr. Craig Mayer. And my next door is Dr. John Hosick, who is an ultrasound expert. So outside our department, I just gave a talk in the neuroscience department. So I think collaboration is everywhere, and I really appreciate that.
By using the engineering design process, Dr. Pierce Kotler relates how her lab uses the experimental data they've collected to form the big ideas.
My research combines experimental work, so actually out at a bench where we have, pipettes and chemicals and that sort of thing, with computational modeling. So we're programming, building models, constructing models on the computer. And so the general area that we're trying to advance is understanding how blood vessels grow and adapt, particularly in different settings of disease. The idea being that if we can understand how they do it in disease, we can understand how to fix them when they're not growing or adapting properly using drugs or stem cells or other therapies.
Dr. Blemker reveals how critical perseverance is for biomedical engineers as they face problems.
Then I'll likely meet with some students, some of my graduate students that are in my lab, and talk about what their projects, the status, and what results they've had, and what problems they're dealing with. And really, on a day-to-day basis, a lot of research is troubleshooting to figure out how to get the experiment to work or the model to run and all these sorts of things. And that's really fun because you're solving problems and you're using problem-solving skills. And then, I tend to. I guess I'm a somewhat optimistic person, so sometimes students come with an issue, and they think, oh, this isn't going to work, and I won't accept that. So there's a way to get it to work. We just got to figure it out, and it always ends up working. It might take longer sometimes or shorter. We might actually redefine the problem because we realize that that's not quite the right problem to solve, and it's a different problem. But I think it's really exciting to see. To struggle with something for a while and it seems like it's not working, and then see it start working. That's really rewarding and exciting, and I like seeing students get that experience too. How they going from the frustrated, beating their head against the desk or their computer table or whatever computer screen, to the point of seeing it working. I think it's almost magical.
Hello, my name is Fred Epstein, and I am professor and chair of biomedical engineering at so let me start by sort of saying, at least in my view, what biomedical engineering is. We'll call it BME for short, biomedical engineering, or BME. So it's really it's quite a broad field, and really, to me, it includes two big areas, and one of them would be defining BME as using quantitative engineering methods to study biology. So traditionally, biology is not always a very quantitative science. It can be sometimes descriptive. So someone might describe what's happening to a cell or an organism or an animal in sort of qualitative ways. And biomedical engineers would take a much more quantitative approach to that. So for example, a biologist might describe calcium in a cell as increasing or decreasing, whereas a biomedical engineer might measure the concentration of calcium within a cell. So biomedical engineers will take a quantitative approach to studying biology or physiology. Another aspect of biomedical engineering might be designing instruments or even imaging modalities that are used to measure biology or physiology. So an example of that might be designing an electrocardiogram to measure the electrical activity of the heart. So that is another broad area of biomedical engineering, designing instruments that quantitatively measure physiology. So that's by way of introduction as to what the field is, and then in terms of who might get excited about or want to become a biomedical engineer. So I think anybody who kind of has that combined interest in biology and physiology, as well as more quantitative mathematical engineering interest, might really be a great person to become a biomedical engineer. Interestingly, in 2012, Forbes magazine rated biomedical engineering as the #1 field for new well-paid jobs in terms of all careers possible. So we in BME we're pretty proud of the fact that we went from 20 years ago, a discipline where most people didn't know what biomedical engineering was, to in 2012 being the top rated, at least by Forbes, career that young people might want to go into. And there are a lot of opportunities for people, who get college degrees in biomedical engineering, be that a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, even a PhD in this field. Biomedical engineers can work in large companies like General Electric, Medtronic, GlaxoSmithKline, you name it, lots of large companies, Boston Scientific, Eli Lilly, all kinds of well-known companies. Also small companies, so there are lots of small companies that hire biomedical engineers. Interestingly, there are some great examples in Charlottesville. There are startups that have come out of faculty members from our own department, Hemosonics, HemoShear, some examples of small startup companies in Virginia, in this area, that have actually spun out of UVA. And some of our graduate and undergraduate students have gone on to work at those companies. So a lot of opportunities. And BMEs go do other things. So people with a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering, it's common for them to go to medical school. Even sometimes they go to law school or business school, get an MBA. So people go and do lots of different things with their degrees in biomedical engineering.
So I think another interesting characteristic of biomedical engineering is that it attracts students that have a wide range of interests. Students will study biomedical engineering and then go on to be doctors and go to medical school, or they'll be consultants at business companies, or they'll study science and engineering and work on devices and products. There's also a really wide range of types of students in our program. So in biomedical engineering, in our program, I'd say about 50% are female, 50% are male, which is a much higher percentage of female students than other engineering disciplines, which makes a lot of fun in class because you just have all kinds of students with all kinds of interests, but they're all really driven by applying technology and math to solving medicine and biology problems.
So definitely I encourage you to watch the entire part of the video that will talk about all the different opportunities available to people doing different aspects and different types of jobs in biomedical engineering.
Engineering students may choose from many different specialties within the biomedical engineering field, such as biomechanics, biomaterials, biotechnology, drug delivery systems, biomolecular machines, biomedical imaging, bioelectrical signal processing, biosensors, protein design, and nanomedicines. Biomedical engineers' demographics are displayed on this map, which shows where the concentrations of these engineers live and work around our country. This infograph actually shows you the job potential in the future for biomedical engineers. Another one of the graphs shows growth in students earning BME degrees during this last decade, as well as increasing levels in salaries. The bottom circle graph shows research funds that have been made available and the growth in their value since the year 2000.